First of all, can I just say I'm really grateful to be here today. I'm actually very humbled at being asked to speak. I don't work from script, so this is going to be a bit raw. But can I say thank you very much for the 50th birthday and balloons out the front. I turned 50 last month, so I thought this was my last wee birthday party. So that's what it is in my head anyway. I will just say as a wee disclaimer, or whatever way you want to put it, I stand over everything I say, and anything that anybody wants to question me on at a later date, 100%, I stand over what I say. Okay, forgive me if I walk up and down a wee bit, just till I get myself into where I'm going. My name is Séana Kerr, and I was born, and I'm only mentioning her name because she was mentioned earlier, I was born on Maggie Thatcher's birthday. 50 years ago, 13th of October for anybody who's worried. Edwina Curry apparently was also her birthday, and my daddy used to call us the Three Iron Ladies, and I said, don't use that description, Daddy. But he may have been right on some counts. Anyway, I am a woman, obviously. I'm a mother. All I wanted to be when I was growing up was get married and have babies. So I got married and had babies. I was never a girly girl, but I was always into babies, so now I'm a midwife. Well, I used to be. At the start of this year, I started to write stuff down in earnest, and I thought I'm going to write a book now that I don't have a job. So it's called The Not So Secret Midwife. So I'm about 27,000 words in. I probably have about 300,000 more. So I'll try and keep this short and sweet. Well, not short, probably. In order to bracket myself in, I'm going to start with why I'm so thankful for 2020, and I'm going to end with a bit of a solutions narrative, because I believe we all should bring some sort of solution to the table. Now, it might meander a wee bit in between there, so stick with me. I'll run through chapters of the book in my head to keep me on track. Anyway, I have 4 live, healthy children, all over the age of 18. I don't tell their story, they can tell their own story someday. And I have another 2 that didn't make it to this life, and I'm very thankful for that as well. In 2004, after having my youngest child, he was a year old, I always wanted to be a midwife, but I never wanted to be a nurse. And I heard about this thing called direct entry midwife, where you could just go and be a midwife, and I thought, great, that's for me. So I went to Queen's in Belfast, and 3 years later, I'm just doing a bio bit to give it a bit of context, if that's all right. I came out with a first class honours degree in midwifery science. It's not important to everybody, but it was important to me because my GCSEs were terrible, so I wanted to get a first, and I did, just about. Anyway, I was a midwife. I only ever worked in the one trust, and it's the trust I grew up in, so 50 years of experience with this trust from many, many angles. I was also a union rep for the Royal College of Midwives for 12 years while I was working within the NHS. I was also a member of the MSLC, which is the Maternity Service Liaison Committee, which I actually joined in 1985 after the stillbirth of my first son. And it's like just a committee for health staff, multidisciplinary. Anyway, went into midwifery as a mature student. They're not great with mature students. Mature students ask too many questions, apparently. So they said, you'll never get a job, you ask too many questions. I said, I don't want a job if I can't ask questions. I always want to know why. It was my favourite word from as a child. So because of my why, I also went on in 2015 to commence a PhD study in Jordanstown, which has not yet been completed, but I've learned a lot on my journey of a PhD, and that'll come into the story as well. So I'll go to 2020. I'm trying to keep it in chronological order. February 15, 2020, I was at a conference in Croke Park in Dublin, and the nature was the All-Ireland Midwifery Conference. And the nature of the conference, they would have had a keynote speaker and then breakout groups. So my friend who was with me, she always looks at all the lists and stuff. I said, where am I going? She says, oh, you love this one, vaccines and pregnancy. I said, I'll go to that one. So off I went, and her name was Dr. Lucy Jessup. A big pharma representative was standing at the front of the room. This room, not as many as here, but a lot of people in it. And she was telling everybody about these 5 new vaccines they were bringing in for pregnant women. And I was literally sitting at the back of the room, shuddering at what she was saying. Now, don't get me wrong, she had it beautifully presented and all her stats and her fancy PowerPoint, all that great stuff. But as a research student, even at that time, I knew she was only presenting one side of the story. So she wasn't technically lying, because they don't lie, they misdirect, right? So I was watching thinking, no, I hear what you're saying, but where's the rest of the story? So at the end, there was this lecturer from Queen's there, and she had the roving microphone. She says, anybody any questions? I put my hand up. I'll always put my hand up. So she came down to me with the microphone, and I have to do a quick side story as to why I asked this question in a room full of people. In October 2017, when I was in night duty in my local hospital, a para one, that's a lady who's had a baby before, and I knew her from her previous baby. She came in to me, she was 35 weeks pregnant. And she'd been in a few times that pregnancy. I see you back again, just a bit of banter with the women. And she says, oh, Shauna, she says, I don't feel right. I says, okay, come on, I get my stuff ready, try and suss out what's wrong with her. She says, I haven't felt the baby move all day. Red flag straight away. So I'm starting to get my stuff quicker. Anything different? Were you sick? Has somebody been sick? Have you not been eating? Going through all the things. She says, no, but I had the vaccine yesterday. Those were her words. And I says, what one? She has the flu vaccine. This was 2017, remember? I said, you sound like you didn't want it. Why did you get it? Because I knew the reluctance was in her. She said, Shauna, they rang me 3 times. It's a habit that I've seen repeated many times since. And she and I both knew before I put them on that the baby was already gone. That child, who I refer to, and if anybody sees my social media, is Baby P, and that's all I would ever refer. It's not my story. I can give those details without giving the story. That child's death came back from the coroner with the title, Unexplained Stillbirth. And I thought, you can't say that's unexplained. There's a what? So I started doing a bit of digging in 2017, and from then on became very vocal. And then you get called the anti-vaxxer and all those gaslighting terms that people come up with. Runs off my back at this stage, couldn't care less. I was a midwife. This was a baby death. Why does not want to know what happened? I couldn't understand why nobody would listen to me. So as a union rep, I was also at a lot of tables and I was bringing things like these up. Shut up, Shauna, that's all I ever heard, one way or another. So anyway, back to 2020 in the room with Dr. Lucy Jessup, I put my hand up because during my research into that child's death, I realised that the paperwork that goes to the coroner does not include the one question that needs to be asked. Was this mother vaccinated? It asks, was she black, white, fat, thin, sick, sore, Catholic, whatever. It asks so many questions. And it doesn't ask the one key question, was this mother vaccinated? Now, as a research student, if you don't ask the question, you won't get the answer. So I thought, why is not asking this question? And I got really, really annoyed then. So we're talking 2020, so I put my hand up and said to this woman, I hear what you're saying about these vaccines, but tell me this, why does the coroner in this country not ask, was this mother vaccinated? So the room went silent, as it does. I thought your woman was going to hit me with the microphone, but she didn't. She sat down beside me and she said, I want the answer too. I thought, brilliant, here we go. So Dr. Lucy Jessup, who has worked in the north of Ireland, England, and is now based in the south, and that is a popular pattern, by the way, among key people, but that's for the book. She answered me correctly, and she said, I'm paraphrasing, that's not a question for me, that's a question for the coroner. I thought, well, you're right, you got me there. And it is a question for the coroner, so I thought, I'm going to ask the coroner. So I went back up home, I'm going to ask the coroner, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Then along came COVID, for God's sake. Anyway, so 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day, St. Patrick's Night, I was in night duty, as I've done for years. And everybody on the ward was talking about COVID, and I was like, oh, stop. Because it triggered me on some level. Why are you all getting annoyed about this? Then the word came through, all the caesarean sections are coming up. They're turning maternity service on its head. I said, why are you doing this? Have I missed something? So the last thing I had heard was some bat in China. I hadn't drawn the dots, right? So we all heard about it that Christmas. They were just planting the seed. That's where it came from, the bat. So everybody was getting annoyed and working. They were, COVID and masks, all this stuff was starting. The masks weren't a big an issue then. It was gloves at that time and toilet roll. So anyway, so my friend on night duty, the same one that was at the conference with me, she knew I was getting frustrated. I says, give me numbers, somebody give me numbers. I work better with numbers and logic. So she introduced me to Worldometers, which was the online live data, blah, blah. I thought, right, great. So I'm sitting working it out, thinking I'm Einstein with my wee whiteboard. And I thought, these percentages are tiny. What are they talking about? Why are they ruining our maternity services over this? So, because for me, the threat was this size, and the response was this size. One word, disproportionate. And then back to my favourite word, why? Why was it so disproportionate to the threat? So, right, hold on, right, done a bit more work that night. At 6:30 that morning, I emailed the head of midwifery and the assistant director, and I basically said, what are you doing? But I put it much nicer than that. Excuse my language, sorry. So I said, I wrote out my figures, I gave them the percentages, different countries and everything else. I said, what are you doing? This is disproportionate, you know. And at that time, Imperial College London model was already out, a model that I've never looked into in any detail, but I knew that the modelling was wrong. And it was because it was based on epicentre data. They took Lombardy, Italy as an example, and created a trajectory that was so flawed. It's actually the most flawed model in modern history. I called it out on the 18th of March 2020 to the head of midwifery, the assistant director, and they wouldn't listen. I sent it at 6:30 a.m, 6:35 a.m, the head of midwifery rang the ward. I answered the phone. Hello? Head of midwifery. She says, hello, Séana. I says, well, you got my email then? I did. I says, and I quote, she says, you made me smile. Well, I was so frustrated. I made her smile. Anyway, so that went on. So I was, everybody in work was still getting all agitated about this COVID. And Séana, why do you not care? You always have to be different. You know the usual. We've all had it. So I was going out the next morning in a bit of a, I was just cross at everything that was happening. And my car was parked outside the morgue, where it always was parked. And as I came over towards it, there was like fencing around my car and a man standing in a high-vis vest. And I thought, what's happened? God, they were quick. Only sent the email at 6:30. You know, so I'm coming walking towards him and he said to me, is your name Séana? I says, oh wow, that was quick. I says, yeah, why? He says, is this your name badge? My name badge was lying beside my car, so that's how I knew my name was Séana, so I had to settle myself. Anyway, I says, yeah, right, okay. Should just go home, Séana, you're tired. So then I looked at what he was doing, I looked back at him and said to him, can I ask you what you're doing? He said, oh, we're just extending the morgue. I said, what? This was the 18th of March 2020. I said, you're extending the morgue, what for? The bodies. And I just looked at him. And he looked at me and he looked down and he says, listen, love, I just do what I'm told. That's something I've heard a lot of times since that. Fear porn. Fear porn. On the 18th of March 2020, they were already extending the morgue. Anyway, so that was fear porn. So for a couple of weeks, I trundled on and work, and everybody fighting with me, and oh, Séana, you always have to be different. All these people that came to me for years for their union statements and their, oh, I done everything for everybody. And suddenly I was a conspiracy theorist. Right? Okay. I've been called worse. So towards the end of the month, things got quite untenable in work, to be honest. People who I'd known 30 years were being very rude to me, and I have to say I was going home absolutely worn out. So I contacted the head of midwifery, who was a friend, you know, she mentored me for years. I said, look, I can't cope here anymore. You know, I'm doing my best to do what I do, and I'm getting a lot of resistance. You know, she says, do you want to move? I said, yes, I do. So I moved to the other hospital in our trust, thinking, we'll start again. I'd already worked there too. First night down there, I was supposed to go to a lovely midwifery-led unit where we have lovely babies and everything's lovely and happy. No, Séana, you're not allowed. We have to go to delivery suite tonight. That's my version of heaven and hell. Midwifery-led and delivery suite are like opposite ends of the spectrum for a midwife. So the next night I was going down to work. I thought, I can't do that again. So I rang the head of midwifery on the way. I says to her, I don't want to go to delivery suite tonight again. I'll keep a midwifery-led unit open on my own because I'm not afraid of birth. Right? Sorry, I skipped a bit, but I'm going to go back to it. So she said, right, Séana, if somebody comes in who's normal, I'm trying not to misquote her, you can keep midwifery-led open. I said, right. So I went up to the unit and the day staff were going off, oh no, Séana, you have to go to delivery suite. I said, no, I'm allowed to stay here if somebody comes in. Well, there's nobody here. And within 5 seconds, the phone rang. I said, there we go. So there was a normal woman coming in. A nice, normal person who was just in labour wanting to have a baby. So I was allowed to stay. So I'm delighted. So this lady in a hazmat suit brought this wee mummy and daddy up to me. Now we're talking the 1st of April actually at this point. I just thought the fear. The people were coming in the door and all I could see was fear. So this wee mummy and daddy, terrified, I said, come on in here. Took them into my room. My room, I called it the no drama room. So that any midwife coming near my room knew, don't interfere. They already knew, don't interfere when Sean was in the room, just let her do her own thing. It's because I could sense the parents' fear. You know, they were terrified. So, luckily enough, the midwifery led unit is, I could seal it off. I closed the curtains, I said, forget about what's going on in the outside world, we're just going to have a baby. And I have to say, they were the loveliest couple, and they did give me their consent to write up their story in my, as part of my PhD, because I have to say, it was the last delivery I was at in the NHS, and it was the most beautiful birth. It was amazing. I want to give you one way example out of just to show faith over fear, because this is when I started learning about faith over fear. And I'm not ashamed to say this, when God came back into my life, because it hadn't been part of it for a very long time, and suddenly I was being faced with all these challenges. Was I going to have faith? I was going to be afraid. And this night was one of them. So the wee lady was near me. We had all night with the mummy and daddy. We were able to talk through so many things. It was amazing. And they were really connected with each other and connected with their baby. And the irony is, part of my PhD research was, I'll give you the title, can a bespoke sonic environment impact positively on the relationship between mother, father, child? And we were trying to develop a mobile app called, ironically, On the Same Wavelength, to help this connection. But through this journey, I've realised we don't need a mobile app to improve the relationship between mother, father, child. They need to look within each other. It's the most sacred union, is the mother, father, child. And I have to say, I believe the medicalisation of childbirth is one of the biggest crimes against humanity. So, the wee mummy's faith. Halfway through the night, and all she had was a bit of gas in her. She didn't want drugs, she didn't want anything with music on. We were doing TikTok dances. She was amazing. And it was all just about keeping her in the right zone. So about halfway through the night, she was getting a bit tired, considering drugs and all of that. So we had a wee listening to the baby. And I would do things very differently now, but anyway. We're listening to the baby, and she'd been listening all night, and she knew it sounded a bit lower than it had earlier. And I seen in her face, fear straight away. She went into fear. The daddy standing, he went, I says, fine. I says, do what we talked about earlier. You know, breathe, come on, you can do this. She started focusing on her breathing, and I kept the monitor on, and the wee baby's heart rate just came up. And I could see her bursting into this smile, and he burst into this smile. It was one of the most powerful moments I've ever seen during the labour of a woman. It was amazing. So then the kicker, at 5:36 a.m, I think if I'm right, on the 2nd of April that morning, I'm still there, my one midwife, my hench person, and baby was coming, and the head, I'll not go into too much detail, but the head was here, and it great, so I'm on my knees on the floor, and then she gave another push, and if anybody in the room has ever heard the phrase shoulder dystocia, they'll know what I'm talking about. So here I am on the 2nd floor of a hospital, no emergency nothing near me, you know, all miles away downstairs. And this woman on her knees and this baby halfway here. Then she pushed again, the baby didn't move again. I just thought, oh my God. And I literally thought, oh my God, because it was the symbolism. I was on my knees, this head literally in my hands. And I thought, really? Are you going to take me this far? And then let something happen here? And I heard the answer myself. It was no. No, I'm not, Shauna. Just be brave. So I thought, right, come on, we're going to do this. The other midwife in the room panicked a bit. That's fair enough. She ran out and she rang the emergency number, which in the hospital I work in, and I believe all of them, 6666. And I thought, well, you're not getting into my room. You're not. It was probably one of the most scary moments of my life, but it showed me what 2020 showed me is faith over fear. All we had to do was believe. I know. But anyway, so that was April. So when we got the baby out, literally came running through the door. The cavalry came running through the door, all guns blazing, you can imagine. this stage, a baby out. And so baby's lying over my hand, a wee bit limp. She was a bit stunned. That's okay. She just had a difficult time. So in comes your one with the scissors to grab the cord. I put my hand down. She nearly cut my hand off. I'll never forget it. I said, what are you doing? Get that baby over here. I says, the baby's going nowhere. Because this baby, number one, needed to remain attached to its cord and it needed to stay with its mummy, who was laying on the floor, delighted, absolutely ecstatic her baby was here. And I'm rubbing the baby and doing all that, what you see. And the next thing she started to cry. I was like, thank you, God. So your one with the scissors was way in a huff because I didn't do what you told me, because she's more senior to me. So anyway, I'm still on the floor with the mummy and the baby and the daddy, and we're all happy. A couple of minutes later, she came back in with the scissors again. I said, where are you going? She said, we need to get the car, get the mummy up on the... I said, I'll do it myself. And I leaned down, and between me and the daddy, we got the mummy and the baby and the cord, all still connected, over onto the bed. She was raging because we still hadn't cut the cord. Because all they want to do is interfere, and interfere, and interfere. And I'm not casting aspersions on anybody. I'm just telling you what I have seen in practice over 17 years. So when I came out of that room that morning, much as I was so happy with what I had seen about my mum and dad in that child's life, I knew I was bait. I couldn't take any more at that time. So I rang the head of midwifery to come up here and see me, and I broke down and I said, I'm away, I'm gone, because my own mental health was starting to suffer. Yeah. So away I went. I was off work for 6 months, the longest I've ever been off. Even though I lost my mummy, a number of years ago, I was never off work this long. So that's just indicative of how things were. Things were tough. So then I thought, frig the corner, I forgot to go back to the corner. So while I was off sick and going down rabbit holes, and I wouldn't advise it to anybody, and I've learnt now rabbit holes, treat them like a pint of Guinness. Just take the nice bit off the top and never mind the depth of the darkness. Don't need to know all that bit. Fear porn. Take what you need to know and move on to the next one. So I thought, in naivety, oh sure, just ring the coroner. So I rang the coroner's office. Hello, I'm Séana. Can I ask you a question? And the girl on the other end of the phone was lovely. And I told her my question and went, oh, she says, yeah, absolutely, that's a great question. I'll ask the coroner for you and ring you back. No, that wasn't going to happen. So she rang me back and she was a bit, he won't answer over the phone. Will you write a letter? I said, oh yeah, they want my details then. Okay, no problem. I know where this is going. So I sent in my details. I don't care, I had nothing to hide. I was only asked a question. Dear Mr. Coroner, why did you not ask, was this mother vaccinated? Or words to that effect. So they came back, and anybody who's went for freedom of information stuff, you know how it goes. They send you around the houses, go and ask this one, go and ask this one, go and ask this one. I didn't care what anybody else thinks. I want to know why you, the coroner, do not want to know, was this mother vaccinated? Yeah. How can you examine the potential causes of death without taking in all the factors? I wasn't saying to him, this vaccine killed this baby. That's not what I said. Because the burden of proof's on me. I asked the question, why do you not ask the question? Why don't you just want to know? And the more they weren't answering me, the crosser I was getting. Yeah. So me and the coroner and a few other departments had a few emails back and forward that was April, right up until the 23rd of May. And on the 23rd of May 2020, I got a response from the coroners, the whole lot of them. They basically said, shut up you, stop asking questions. 2 days later, my car was stolen. Personal effects belonging to my mummy and my granny, who both left this life, and my partner's phone. So things started to get a wee bit messy. Then I got death threats online. I was called a fascist, didn't know what it meant, I had to look it up, sorry. And by the way, try to look up fascist, do you see what you find out? It doesn't, it just directs you towards fascism. It doesn't get, anyway, that's another chapter. So, the reason for the death threats was because I was in Belfast campaigning to save babies' lives because I'm anti-abortion. Why wouldn't it be? You've no idea how hard it is to be a midwife who does not support abortion. I can't understand why, as a profession, it's not a no-brainer. That's my personal choice, and that's my personal stance anyway. After that, so-called Republicans. Now, listen, I grew up in a Catholic council housing estate in the north of Ireland in the 70s and 80s. The only reason I'm specific is because we were led to believe it mattered. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what colour you are, whether you have a mask on or not, whether you're vaccinated, it doesn't matter. Under God, we're all one. It doesn't matter. And this was starting to dawn on me, all these divide and conquer politics. You know how it goes. We've already been on that one. So, where am I? The coroner, got my car stole, got the death threats. By the way, can I just say, in the middle of the death threats online, there was this one wee voice that came in and it said, is this not intimidation? Because they'd taken my details and copied them and put them online and stuff. And it was this wee tiny person called Anne McCluskey. So she's here today. And I'd never met her in my life, didn't know who she was. But I later met her and found out who the tiny doctor from Derry was that was butting in the Republicans trying to kill me. Anyway. So then, I was still back and forward with work, HR, all that's the drama that you go on with work. I went to the consultant midwife at the PHA, I went to the director of RCM, both of whom are long-term acquaintances of mine. And I remember the consultant midwife said to me, Sean, why do you think you know different, or why do you think you know better than the people at Imperial College London? I says, right. I says, I didn't say I know better. I'm just saying I look at it differently. And it's all about looking at it from a different angle. They were all only looking at it from this one directed angle. And they couldn't see the wood for the trees. It was so frustrating. People that I'd known for years, who were intelligent, who were, I thought, questioning minds, suddenly hadn't a question in their head. They were just following orders. The amount of times I said that to the head of Midwifery and it went over her head, God love her. I had a telephone conversation with her one day, it was quite important. I says, you know, this isn't worth the paper it's written on. And she says, but it's not written. I said, oh God. Anyway, that's what you were dealing with. So, August time 2020, I started to meet a few other people that thought like me. I realised I wasn't the only one in the world. You know when you get through that, you think you're the only person. Started to meet all these other people, I thought, no, I'm going back to work. I'm going to fight this from the inside. I can't do it out here. So then they said, oh, well, if you come back to work, you have to wear a mask. I said, no, I'm not. And went through the whole occupational health thing. Occupational health verified, I'm exempt, didn't have to wear a mask. So I said, right, I don't have to wear one, where will I go? Well, you can't come onto the ward. Okay, where do you want me to go? We'll have a wee office over here. Right, what do you want me to do? Ring people. So I was in the office for 2 days, I think. Then they said, no, I'm not allowed in the office anymore. Because people didn't want me walking up the corridor without a mask on to get to the office, even though I was going up the back steps. Right? So what do you want me to do now? Work from home. A midwife working from home. I'm telling you, it gets crazier. So then I told them my internet was terrible and they wanted me on a works laptop and blah, blah, blah. So I ended up working from my car for 3 weeks. I drove in and out of the town to get signal for their laptop and all of that stuff. And all the while I was documenting, telling them, this was, are you really? You're crying out for staff. I'm standing here happy and willing to work and don't let me in because I'm exempt from mask wearing. Anyway, so that went on for a while, and then I was ready to come back to work. Sorry, just before I was ready to come back to work, I spoke out at Stormont. So then as soon as I was back in work, they're coming at me, what are you doing speaking out? Well, I said, I didn't say anything wrong. One of the HR people said to me, do you not know who pays your wages? I said, that doesn't mean I have to sell my soul. But they were literally saying, you can't say what it is you're saying. Even though all I was doing was asking the question. Why does the coroner not ask, was this mother vaccinated? And that does not make me an anti-vaxxer, that makes me a questioner. Anyway, so then I had a chat with a girl in a shop one day and apparently her husband didn't like it and they reported me and everybody started reporting me from my Facebook and whatever. And I am very conscious about what I put on Facebook. I put passive language. I am a grammar nerd. I will not put anything on there that will incriminate me. I am very select in what I say and what I don't say. But all these people suddenly didn't like it and the trust were delighted. Oh, all these people complaining about Sean. I think there was 3. So they suspended me. So they contacted me, I think it was the 11th of November, to tell me I was suspended. I says, okay. Indefinitely? Well, yeah, at the minute. Okay, on full pay? Yeah. I said, okay, no problem. I was off again on full pay, night duty enhancements. It was great that I had my union rep head on because they couldn't pull one over on me. So then they decided to tell me, just before Christmas, we're going ahead to hearing. We think we have enough of a case against you to get rid of you. It's okay, knock yourselves out. So I had some great people that helped me sort of look through the case against me. There was 5 ridiculously long claims of my bringing the trust into disrepute. I think that annoyed me more than anything, because as a health professional of 17 years and a union rep, and I did not bring any trust into disrepute. I might have said what they didn't like, but that's not what I did. Anyway, through the trial, I'm going to bring in Tony Blair just because he was mentioned earlier as well. Through the trial, I realised a couple of things that I can prove if anybody's interested. On the 6th of April 2020, in the middle of a global pandemic, the particular trust that I work in, and I'm assuming they all did, but I can only talk for the trust I worked in, went into their HR policy and changed how you can be represented if you were into a hearing. Now, as a long-standing union rep, I know the words. The words were workplace colleague, trusted friend, or union representative. Those were your three options for having representation if you got in trouble, right? So my letter came out and it said, trusted workplace colleague or union representative. I said, no, that's not what it is. So I rang HR, you must have got this letter wrong. Well, because I had no trusted colleagues anymore, they didn't want to know me. So they were leaving me with only a union representative, and because I am the union representative, the only one above me was the one in Belfast who hated what I was saying. I knew she was never going to represent myself. So they were like, no, Sean, it never said that. I said, yes, it did. No, it did. Yes, it did. I said, I want the documents on discovery. So on discovery, on the 6th of April 2020, one person from the trust went in and changed that document. Why? Wow. Why? I thought they were more just concerned about a global pandemic. What are they going in and changing personnel documents for, right? So I looked into that another bit. So in line with Tony Blair's government of 1999, I think it was the ERA Act, the Labour Relations Agency were updating with their... In 1999, Tony Blair's government enacted that through the ERA, so that when you're in something like the NHS, you cannot have independent representation. Because by calling in a union or a colleague, neither of them are independent. So you can't actually have an independent body in with you if you get into trouble. I thought that was very interesting. The trust didn't seem to think so. They thought I was making a fuss about nothing. It was the same way a couple of years before when I was at a union table. I was going through somebody's contract and I seen this line at the end of the contract and it basically said, and anything else the trust asks you to do. I said, no, you can't say that. And they're like, oh, stop, Shauna. I said, you can't say it because the rest of the contract reads lovely. Misdirection. The rest of the contract, you think you're getting this great deal. Then you get to the kicker in the last line. How many people read the contract at the last line? I read everything. I read everything. So, where am I at? April, May, the car's been stolen, the death threats, Medan, Stormont, what else were we at? The trial, they took me to trial then. So, I got around their trusted friend in my own wee way. I wanted a face-to-face hearing. I wasn't allowed to call it a trial, it's a hearing. I wanted a face-to-face one. Said no, because COVID. I said, right, you're trying to end my career and I have to sit on Zoom. I don't have a computer. I was just throwing everything at that stage. I don't have access to Zoom. That's all right, we'll give you access. I said, okay, where? Do you know where they give me? The local mental hospital. I said, really? Think I haven't seen Enigma, Alan Turing? Get away out of the road. Anyway, I got an alternative place myself. Their tactics were horrendous. I went into hearing that morning with myself and my trusted colleague sitting in the corner, and there was four of them on screen, the big guns. Oh, I had assistant directors and everything. I was only a band 6. I thought, oh, I'll take the compliment. Because it annoyed them on some level. They were using the biggest guns to get to me. But the night before my trial, and I was going through all the stuff, and they sent me all this paperwork, I realised I didn't have to go through all that paperwork. All I have to do is answer the 5 questions that they asked me. They were misdirecting me. They were trying to get me busy and my ego and all, getting into all these questions, so would I tell all this stuff? Rubbish. 5 questions, Shauna, what's your answer? So I thought, great. So I wrote and answered every question. Just perfectly short and sweet. I was following I'm paraphrasing. I just told them I was following my code of conduct. And I had not broken my code of conduct in any way, shape or form. I was a health professional, I was doing no harm, all those things that you hear talked about. I hadn't breached my code of conduct in any way. But they never wanted to talk. This is the NMC, you heard them earlier. They didn't want to talk about the NMC code of conduct. They wanted to talk about employment law. They didn't care. Do you know what I mean? So that's the way they spun it. So I realised, even though on paper that what they were throwing against me wasn't watertight at all, I had to go. They were trying to get rid of me. So I went through my hearing and I resigned at the end of it because I thought they're going to sack me anyway. I resigned. They subsequently found me guilty on all 5 charges and sacked me retrospectively. Reported me to the NMC for being a dangerous practitioner, really. And then the real kicker, Charlotte McCarr, Chief Nursing Officer in North of Ireland, wrote to all the chief executives of all the NHS in England, Scotland, Wales, and said, don't give this one a job. And I thought, wow, I'll take that compliment. I've really annoyed you now. Why were they so annoyed about this one midwife that wanted to save babies' lives? What is going on? What is going on? Right? So, from March this year, I have no job. That's still on. I'm very thankful that I have loads of great people in my life that have been very supportive. I was served an eviction notice for my house in April, so I'm also technically homeless. Thankfully, my children are all over 18 and have found their own way. And if ever there were resilient kids in the world, they're mine. I say that with great pride. But anyway, we're here now. Nobody has still answered the question why they're not asking, was this mother vaccinated? In that particular trust in September, there were 24 pregnancies that ended before their time. Why is nobody asking the question? In Scotland, they're investigating 21. There was 24, not too many miles from here. In September, why is nobody kicking up a fuss? Why did not cure when babies are dying? Anyway, I'll try to stop rambling. I could go on for another 10 years, but I won't. I'll be in the book. But anyway, solutions, narrative. I want to come back to something Jonathan said earlier when he was talking about wouldn't it be great if we could just get the ultimate vaccine? Just one, that'll do it, that'll be it. And I said to him, you know, it is already available. And it is available from birth. And it's not only species specific, but it's unique to every child. And that's breast milk. The only vaccine they'll ever need. Ever need. It's already there. Doesn't need a patent. Nobody can do anything with it. Stop interfering with birth. On that note, through my years in the NHS, I'm sure you're all familiar with care plans. They're in everybody's notes. Did you pee? Did you poo? Did you this? Did you that? They're very prescriptive. And I always used to say that I would develop my own care plan. My name's Kerr. You couldn't make it up. So careplan.com was what came out of that. And it's my vision for the future of healthcare, about creating a matrix of care. We can't wait until people give us our power back here. A great man once said, step to one side and set your own stuff up. Stop waiting till they stop attacking us. It's not going to happen. Go over here and just fire on. Keep going. Do your own thing. One last, I know I'm all over the place. In the book, it'll be in better order. One last wee thing that I forgot to go back to. The morning of the morgue incident, I went home that morning and I got into bed a bit annoyed because I'd had so much cracking on that night. And my usual thing was get the youngsters out to school, watch Netflix or whatever helped me fall asleep. So I was laying in bed that morning and I clicked on Netflix and this thing came up on the screen, Plandemic. I remember March 2020. And I thought, I'll watch this. So I turned it on. It was written apparently in 2015 by Bill Gates and Barack Obama, who I've learned a lot more about. Anyway, so at that stage I thought Bill Gates was a philanthropist. I've come a long way. So I was watching this thinking, right, go on. So within about 4 or 5 minutes I thought, this is what's happening now. How did they write this in 2015? You know, pennies were dropping all over my head at this stage. So I was actually a bit shaky. I was like, what is going on here? This is really eerily close to the truth. So it lasted about 4 minutes, I pressed pause, and I put my 2 hands together, something I hadn't done in a long time, and my hands actually shook. And I said, I'll never forget it. I can see the house coat and everyone was wearing, and I said, God, if there's something we can do about this, just tell me what it is. Tell me what it is. I was never so scared and fearful, because everything that was going on, they'd just shown this woman like this in front of her children, they were going to attack her. I was like, that's like me. You know, it was so representative of what we were going through, and I was terrified. And I said, God, show me something, anything at all. I was all right, my wee prayer over, I pressed play. Within 2 seconds, it went to the woman's foot. I can't believe I'm even doing this all out loud, but this is the right place. And on her foot was a tattoo, Psalm 1.1. I thought, what's that? Now, I know many people in the room could probably quote that verbatim. I couldn't. And I went and I looked up Psalm 1.1. I want to quote it properly, so I put it on my phone. And Psalm 1.1 said, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers." And it just really hit me that that was me. It's the first time in my life I'd ever asked for a sign. And within seconds, this is what I got. You couldn't make it up. There's many more chapters about stuff like that. And my last wee one is the key ring my wee cousin handed me one day. Keep going. And just keep going. Whatever it is we're here to do, just keep going. Don't be distracted by the fear porn and the naysayers and everybody that wants to call to me. Just keep going with what you believe in your heart.